This is the Arlington County Board of Equalization hearings. We have 6 cases on the agenda and 4 board members present. Mr. Hoffman is not here today, but we do have a quorum. The first case on the agenda is RPC 03008020 at 4000 North Glebe Road. And Mr. and Mrs. Kaparis, you can start with your 8 minutes and tell us about this property.
Sure, thank you. Good morning, members of the board.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt 1 second.
Okay.
Can I have the other appellants turn your cameras off? Because it's distracting. Only the people talking whose cases are up should have. So there we go. Okay, good. Go ahead. I'm sorry to have interrupted. You can reset the clock at 8 minutes.
No problem. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Minchi Kaparis, and this is my husband, Jefferson Kaparis. We are appealing the revised tax assessment on our property because we believe that it's unreasonably reassessed for the following reasons. First, the land was initially assessed for 12,362 square feet, but we discovered from a survey that 2,468 square feet of that land was transferred years ago to the Commonwealth of Virginia, leaving us with only 9,894 square feet of land. We filed our survey to support the reduction in our land size and appealed the tax assessment value of the land. However, the revised value only decreased by $26,000. We believe that this was unfair because the land was originally assessed at $65.41 per square feet. But after the revision, the land is now assessed at about $79 per square feet. The reduction in land, in the value of land, was only about $10 per square feet. We believe that the reduction in land should have been at the same price per square feet as what it was originally assessed at, which was $65.41 per square feet. If it was reduced at this same value, instead of the $10 per square feet, then the reduction would have been approximately $161,000 to $162,000 instead of $26,000. Second, we reviewed the comparables that the assessor used to arrive at the revised value of the land. However, we do not believe that the comparables are similarly situated to our property because they are in better locations and not on busy streets. One of the comparables is even on a cul-de-sac on North Stafford, and the 2 others are on small streets, 40th Street North and 38th Place North. Our property is located in a different community than the other comps as well. It would have been more meaningful to use properties in the same community and on the same or similar street. Our property is on a very busy street, North Glebe, and our cross street is Chesterbrook Road. Because of that, the value is decreased due to the noise and the traffic on our street. We also are in a more affordable community, Chesterbrook Woods, and not in the old Glebe community. We researched and found that other properties on North Glebe were assessed at about the same, which was we were originally assessed at, which is about $65 per square feet. For 4030 North Glebe Road, it was assessed at $63.51 per square feet. And that's only 500 feet away. For 3941 North Glebe Road, it was assessed at $68.18 per square feet. And that sold around the same time, November 18th, and is only 300 feet away from our property. We are on 4000 North Glebe. Both of these properties, as you can see from the address, are near our property and on the same busy street in the same community. If you average their assessment rates, it comes out to about $65 per square feet. Our revised assessment rate is $79 per square feet and is significantly higher than the average of those properties around us. We believe the equitable calculation to reduce the assessed value should have been reduced by $162,000 and not merely $26,000, because that would have kept our assessment value on par with the other properties in our area. Third, we purchased this property about 6 months ago, November 15, 2024, at which time the property was appraised at $1.1 million. However, the appraisal was based off of land that was 12,362 square feet and not 9,894 square feet, which is what we own now. We find it hard to believe that after a reduction in land, our assessed value with less land would still be higher than the appraised value with more land. Even the current Zillow value is only $1,107,000, and that's with the higher amount of land of 12,000 square feet. And the revised assessed value is 1.114 million. Again, the Zillow value doesn't even take into account the reduction in the size of our land. Finally, we're just a middle income family that moved here to Arlington and saved up to buy a home in Arlington. And we're more than willing to pay our fair share of taxes to support this community that we've come to love. But we just don't feel that this has been a fair treatment of our property assessment. We already lost out paying more for the land that we didn't own. And so we're just here to request that we don't have to pay taxes on this land that we don't own. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Petaluna for the county, please.
Hi, yeah, good morning, board. So we performed an exterior inspection on March 11th. The subject's property neighborhood had an average increase of 3.6% due to the sales. The subject's property increased 1.4% this last assessment. The subject's property quality of very good minus appears in line with the neighborhood being a one-story single-family home, 2,081 square feet above ground. Appellant's concern with the lot size was reviewed in the department's record section, updated the lot size to 9,894 square feet from the original 12,362 square feet. Due to the record lot size changes, the value of the appellant's land has been updated from 808,600 to 781,900. It has an influence of -10% for the Glebe Road. The updated land value is in line with similar lot sizes within its neighborhood and is shown with comps that the county has provided on page 3 of the packet. Appellants purchased the home November 13th, 2024 for $1.1 million and was considered a valid market sale. It is recommended that the 2025 assessment be confirmed at $1,114,400. This amount can be confirmed as fair and equitable.
All right, thank you. Questions from board members? Mr. Mendez.
Yeah, good morning. For the appellants, I was just wondering, when was the survey conducted? Was it while you were under contract to buy the property, or was it afterwards?
It was at the basically at the conclusion, right before we closed escrow. That's when we received the survey of the property.
Okay, so you were aware of the lot size prior to the closing.
Yeah, but we were about to close, so yeah.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? No? Okay, Mr. Petaluna, if you take a minute to wrap up, sir.
Yeah, so make this quick. Again, after the land record updates and purchases and the purchase price of 1.1 million, we recommend that the assessment be confirmed at 1,114,400.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. and Mrs. Caparis, if you take a minute to wrap up, please.
Sure. So we moved here in Arlington during COVID around 2020. We have been looking for a home here for years since we moved out here. We have enjoyed living here and call Arlington our home. So we're just a middle class family, and we believe in paying our taxes fairly. However, we do not believe that the assessment is fair, and then we request the board to make the correction. In summary, we are appealing to the board, to revise the tax assessment value due to the following reasons. One, the assessed value should have been reduced by around 162,000 and not 26,000. Two, the comparables used by the assessor are not similarly situated to our property. The comparables we presented to you today should be used in the calculation of reduction instead. And third, we just recently purchased the property on November 15, 2024. The reduction applied
Time is up.
was not consistent with the current market value. Thank you for your time and attention to our hearing our
Okay.
requests.
All right, thank you. Okay, it's just among the board. Where are folks on this? Mr. Mendez.
Yeah, I'm happy to start here. So for this property, I know in Arlington County, we're supposed to assess properties at 100% of market value. I believe the sale was just outside the analysis window for 2025, but it was a late sale, and we have gone back and looked at those. The 2024 assessment was what almost 1.1 billion. It's like 1,099,000, almost right on the nose. So what I think we're looking at is just that 14,400. So it did sell for 1.1 last year, and the assessment went up 14,400 on the 1st of January 2025. So that's about 1% or so. The neighborhood average was 3.6%. It looks like the county did make the adjustment for the lot size. So with all things considered, I would probably stick with the 2025 current assessment.
The revised.
Excuse me. Yes, the revised.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Penaranda?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Mr. Mendez said, and I believe, the whole appeal, I think, is based on making an adjustment as per square foot value, which, we don't, I know there's a lot of states, a lot of areas that will do that when the lots are, I guess, bigger or residential. Different areas that are not necessarily like Arlington, but in Arlington, there's a base value for each home site, and based on that is where the value goes. And looking around the neighborhood, I don't see that this is not, equalized. So I think the reduction that the county made based on the adjustment lot size, I think it's good. I mean, it's what we've seen before. So I'm okay with the revised assessment.
Okay, anything different, Mr. Yates? Okay, all right. Committee moves on a motion. Would somebody like to?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll move that we confirm the county's 2025 reduced value of 1,114,400.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second by Mr. Penaranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. The county's revised number of 1,114,400 has been confirmed. Thank you to both parties.
Thank you, board.
Thank you.
Okay, the next, if we have Ms. Telleria, there we go. And do we have Mr. Edamati and Ms. Murphy? There we go. Okay. All right, the next case on the agenda is RPC 14043-209 at 820 North Pollard Street. Mr. Edamati, you can start with your 8 minutes and tell us about this property.
Oh, sure. Thank you for your time this morning. A one-bedroom condo at 820 North Pollard Street, right at the intersection of Wilson and North Pollard. Purchased this property back in, I think, 2019 for $465,000. It's my mom lives there. She's 85 years old and on a fixed income and has a pension from as a registered nurse from New York State. So she's got limited funds, but that's where she resides, which is not too far from where we live. Basically, the county assessment is at 531,000, and I'm happy to, I don't know if we can share screens or not, but at 531,600 is $616 per square foot. And I went and pulled, and I've shared the comps with the county, looking at one bedrooms in in the building, 820 North Pollard, as well as the adjacent building, 880 North Pollard Street, and one bedroom unit at 3800 North Fairfax, just literally around the corner. And the $616 per square foot is wildly out of range to the comps that I've pulled. And these comps range from October 12, 2023, all the way up to one of the units that closed a couple weeks ago, which I know is outside of the range, but there's plenty that are within the range. October 12, 2023, November 20th. Can I share my screen? I'm sorry. I don't know if that's permitted. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
sure. Go ahead.
So yeah, it's just easier if I show. So basically, Arlington County is at 531.6, 863 square feet at 616. I'm proposing 503,200, which is 583 a square foot. Here are the comps that range from just in the building or the adjacent building, you know, a few of which, a couple of which are in the survey period, and then a few which I believe are outside of the survey window. But as I've explained to the assessor, this property, as much as I wish, has never been worth 531,600. And I think the comps that she's using are based on, and as I've explained, two-bedroom comps. And what she's doing is taking the two-bedroom comps and using that per square foot and applying it to the one bedrooms. And that's really not a fair way to look at these comps, because I understand there are a shortage of comps as a result of not many trades taking place, due to the elevated mortgage rates and interest rate environment. But a lot of people will purchase two bedrooms, and I've seen it in my mom's building. You'll see two bedrooms with children, and especially in the Ballston area, where you have a lot of high rises, you'll see two-bedroom units. They will trade because a lot of parents are really trying to get their children into Arlington County public schools, and because they're great schools, but you can't have one child, or certainly not two children in a one bedroom would be very, very difficult. So really, those are not fair comps. And that's why I've only pulled and I'm showing one bedroom comps. And I think what I'm saying, even at 503,200, which is 583 a square foot, relative to these comps, it's still a very substantial premium on both an absolute dollar basis and on a per square foot basis. You can see the comparability of the square footages, and you can see that north of $60 a square foot higher than these average comps. Also, when you look at the assessment, this is just the improvement value. So ignoring land for a second, which has stayed constant at 75,000, you can see there's a very dramatic increase in the improvements over the 2024 assessment, at almost 11.5%. And I assure you that there have been no improvements to my mom's unit. Everything's original to when the property was built in 2006, I believe. So I don't really understand the basis for an 11.5% increase in the improvement value when the land value actually remained the same at 75,000. So that's really it. I was just really surprised, and I did look at the the building stack, and they were all, frankly, they were all assessed high in the 12 stack. Her unit is 412, and I think they went up, call it $2,000 or $3,000 a unit as you went up in the building. But I'm obviously only representing, my mom's unit. But $616 a foot is a massive number, and this property has never been improved. And certainly there are not one bedroom comps in that immediate micro market to justify this improvement value and this total assessment at 531. So my issue is not with the land, it's really just with this 11.5% increase in the improvement value alone. That's it. I appreciate your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Telleria for the county, please.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Taffy, and I will be speaking on behalf of the county. The subject unit 412 is a one-bedroom, one-bathroom condo with a den at 863 square feet. It is on the 4th floor of the Hawthorne condominium and has one parking space and one storage unit. During the 2025 analysis, there were a total of 7 open market sales. The vast majority of the sales were 2-bed, 2-bath units. We only had one sale that was a one-bedroom unit that sold during the analysis. Unit 904 sold on January 31st, 2024 for $618,000. This unit is a 1-bed, 1-bath with a den at 928 square feet. This unit appeared not to have any updates, but was still in excellent condition. It was on the market for 20 days, had an assessment to sales ratio of 87% at the time of sale, and is currently assessed at $580,800. Other sales that we saw for the 2025 analysis included Unit 611, which sold in March of 2024 for $715,000. This unit is a 2-bed, 2-bath, 1,094 square foot model. This unit had a few updates to its kitchen and had also an assessment to sales ratio of 87% at the time of sale. It is currently assessed at $672,200. And Unit 811, which is also a 2-bed, 2-bath. It's 1,086 square feet, which sold in July of 2024 for $710,000. It had an assessment to sales ratio of 89% at time of sale and is currently assessed at $671,300. The Hawthorne condominium was built and declared as a condo in 2006. It's a high-rise with 135 units, but only 50 of those are 1-bedrooms. The majority of the units' model base values did increase 10%. The Hawthorne condominium, given its age, doesn't see many outliers since the majority of the units have similar levels of remodel. The beginning median assessment to sales ratio for this neighborhood was 89.5%, and after the changes, we did increase it to 98%. The changes made were a result of the county's mass appraisal methodology. Given the lack of one-bedroom sales, all valid sales that sold during our analysis period in this condo were used when making changes for 2025. The county does not assess on a price per square foot method for condos. The subject property was not inspected, but its assessment is in line with similar sized units. I ask that the board confirm the 2025 assessment for Unit 412 at $531,600. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Adamati, first, if you could take your screen share down, because it's distracting. Thank you. Okay, questions from the board, and I will start. Ms. Telleria, have you had any conversation with the appellant about the combination of land and improvements, and when values go up, it doesn't necessarily go to the land to offset the whole issue of him not understanding that there was no improvements to the property? It's just
Not
based on
to
market
that
value.
extent. Yeah, not to that extent. We shared our analysis, which was basically he wanted to see all of the sales used when we made the changes. So we did share that information, but we did not speak to that extent of land
I
versus.
would probably, moving forward, that's a good thing to do, because I think that's an ongoing theme that people don't understand. I didn't do any improvements, so why did my improvements go up? And then for Mr. Adamati, the question of, I realize that you're using sales from around the property, which, I see where you're going with that. What do you think of comp one that the county's using? It's a 1-bedroom.
Well, that's the only, yeah, I mean, she shared that. That's literally the only comp. Every other comp is a two-bedroom comp. And so,
Right,
you
I
know,
understand that. I'm
right.
asking you what specifically you think about that one.
I think it's one comp, and to take, you know, that comp and to apply it to an entire to every one bedroom in the building or in, you know, the survey area, it doesn't seem you know, you need more than one comp. So I've got comps as well. I'm curious why those were not included.
But they're
And
outside
these
the
were,
building. But okay, you've answered the question. Other questions from board members? Mr. Yates. Turn your microphone on, sir.
I'm sorry. To the county, do you have an overall average of the annual increase on the building for the units that sold?
The whole building went up about 10%. That's the average.
Okay, that's what I thought I had that.
Okay, Mr. Mendez?
Do we know what that breaks down as far as the one-bedroom units go? Since it's our average, I assume they're not all one beds. Do you know what the one beds were on average?
We technically, so what we do when we applied our increase, we apply it to something called the model base rate. So that varies based on square footage, and literally everything just pretty much went up 10% to that specific model base rate. So
Okay, so they probably went up about 10% as well.
yeah, it was the same for the whole building.
Got it.
Mr. Penaranda, any questions? No? Okay, Ms. Telleria, if you take a minute to wrap up, please.
Sure. I would like to point out that this was the first increase to the assessment in a few years. The subject's assessment had been the same for years 2022 through 2024 at 484,800. We had quite a few sales this year. Quite a few sales in this year's analysis, which really showed that our assessments needed to be brought closer to fair market value. I understand that the appellant has listed some more recent comps, but those sales will be considered for the 2026 assessment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Edamati, if you take a minute to wrap up, sir.
yeah, again, I don't really understand necessarily how you can, you know, take two-bedroom sales comps, which there were a few, and apply it to an entire one-bedroom stack. This unit has never been worth $531,000. I guarantee you, I could not sell it for $531,000 if you go to Zillow or you go to Redfin or Homes.com. And so, you know, and I appreciate the comment that, oh, the comps that are outside of the survey period will be taken into consideration next year. But I have a sneaky suspicion that the assessment will not go down, barring some catastrophic 2008 type event, which nobody wants. So again, at the end of the day, I've never seen an assessment significantly higher than where I could actually trade this unit. Typically, assessments are at a discount to, you know, the fair market value, even though they're supposed to be at fair market value. But this is considerably higher than fair market value. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, thank you both. All right, is this among the board? Where's everybody on this? Mr. Mendez?
Yeah, it looks like the property was purchased in 2019 for 465. Last year, the 2024 assessment was 484. So it may have just lagged behind a little bit. I understand 10% is a pretty large jump in 1 year. But that comp one seems to support sales in the 600,000s, and we're nowhere near that here. So but I also do give the appellate credit for those comps. They are a little bit recent, so we can't consider them because they're outside of the analysis period. And then there were a couple that were in 2023 as well, which are a little bit too far behind. So I don't see anywhere where I could make a reduction. So I would probably just stick with the county's assessment.
I'm sorry, the two comps were in
I'm
that
sorry,
window.
excuse me, sir. It's just among the
Yeah.
board members.
Apologies.
Mr. Yates?
I'm fine with where it is. I tried to figure out and understand the adjustment any greater than, and I understand the issue of 10% on two bedrooms versus one bedrooms. But given and it is one comp, I understand that. But the value, I have a feeling that it would sell at a better price than he's thinking. The assessment's not that far off.
Or anything different, Mr. Penaranda? Turn your microphone on.
No, I think unfortunately this is one of the buildings that has for so many years just lacked on, value going up because the assessment value has been at the same level for years. Even from 2016, it's been like in the 430, 440.
Yeah.
Then it went up to the 480, and it was there for several years. So I think it's catching up a little bit, but I think based on sales, I think it justifies the increase.
Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and move that we confirm the assessment at 531,600.
Second.
Mr. Yates is a second. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. The county is confirmed at 531,600. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have Mr. Kinney and Ms. Devine? They were on earlier. There we go. Okay,
Yes.
next case on the agenda is RPC 17036-170 at 1200 North Nash Street. You may start with your 8 minutes and tell us about this property.
Thank you. The unit in question is Prospect House Unit 831. It's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath condo and building that was built in 1964. The unit was purchased by Aaron and myself in 2024 for $532,000. We included in our appeal a letter from the broker that we used indicating the property was listed on MLS, had multiple offers, and was an arm's length transaction between two unrelated parties. While the property was purchased for $532,000, the county has assessed it at $613,500, which is $81,500 over the purchase price, basically 15%. Using the two county comps that are shown on page 4 of the county's presentation, the first one is also purchased in 2024. It was purchased for $560,000, but it was assessed for $480,300, which is $79,700 less than the sales price. And as the county noted in there, the assessment to sales ratio in this particular case was 84%. If you use the same analysis on the property that we purchased, the assessed value to the sales price was 115%. So you have, in one case, 16% below, in another case, you have 15% above. Using county comp number 2, which is what they also use, that was also purchased in 2024 for $408,000, but it was assessed for $367,400, basically $40,600 less than the actual purchase price. It's basically, according to the county's calculations, on the ASR ratio, it's 88%. So it's basically assessed at 12% less than the purchase price. Our unit is assessed at 15% over the purchase price. The two comps used by the county, actually based on market sales, were 16 and 12% lower than the sales price. And the variance between the sales price and assessment between these units ranged from basically 31% and 27%. It doesn't appear that the units were assessed equally, in the sense that two were assessed below the purchase price. Ours is assessed above the purchase price. Now, fair market value, if you look at, the appraisal book, I guess I don't need to go into what fair market value is, but it's basically a market sale between unrelated parties. County uses an estimated formula. In this case, we have an actual fair market value of 532, which was an arm's length sale between parties with independent parties with multiple bids. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Ms. Telleria for the county, please.
Yeah. The subject property is Unit 831 at Prospect House Condo. It's a 1-bed, 1-bath, 1,065 square feet. Has an open balcony with views of Washington, D.C. The unit recently sold, and the appellant submitted photos of the unit, which are consistent with the listing. The photos show the living area, which includes a full view of the Washington Monument, Potomac River, and Iwo Jima Memorial. The kitchen appears to be updated, having white cabinets, black and white granite, white appliances, and a carpeted living area. The subject was originally listed for $499,000, but the unit closed for $532,000 after being on the market for 15 days. Per MLS, the subject property was a cash sale with no financing. During the 2025 analysis period, there were 6 open market transactions and several off-market sales. Of the 6 open market transactions, 4 of the sales were 1-bedroom units. As seen on the comp sheet, Unit 216 sold in February for $560,000. The unit is a 1-bed, 1-bath, 1,058 square foot unit, currently assessed at $483,000. And Unit 135, also a 1-bed, 1-bath with 728 square feet, that's sold in April of 2024. That sold for $408,000. It's currently assessed at $367,400. Prospect House was built in 1980 with 268 units. The building has 2 sides, one facing DC while the other faces the buildings on Nash and Oak Street. Prospect House is a very particular situation with its floors. Floors only go up ascending on levels 2, 5, 8, and 11 in the penthouse. Due to the unique floor layout of the building, I have included 2 assessment comparables to show equalization among similar sized units. Comparable assessments are included as comps 3 and 4. For the 2025 analysis, the beginning median assessment to sales ratio at Prospect House was 90%. The entire building went up 3% to its model-based values, bringing the final median ratio to 92%. This was a very conservative increase, given that there were varying levels of renovation in this building. The homeowner listed comparable Unit 232, which is slightly larger at 1,177 square feet, but this unit does not have any views and was listed with a major price improvement and was an outlier data point compared to all other open market transactions. The subject sale, as well as any other comps that recently sold, will be considered valid data points for 2026 assessment. The subject is in line with similar sized units at Prospect House. Therefore, it is recommended that the assessment be confirmed at $613,500. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Questions from board members? Mr. Mendez?
Yeah, for the county, do we know how many offers the property received?
No, I didn't see how many. I'm sorry.
Okay, and also, do you know how the view value is calculated? It seems like all the other comparables are inferior as far as the view value goes, even one on the same floor. How is that calculated?
Yes. So basically for views for any condo, just in general, when the condo first builds, we have the most amount of data points. So that's when we have the most amount of sales, and we can really see how much of that sales price is really attributed to being on the view. In particular for Prospect House, when it was originally built, these views were set on percentage adjustments. That means like if you had a bigger unit, you would have a bigger view value. And then as the value started increasing, those values started going up to what it is currently now. We have stopped using percentage adjustments a couple of years ago and have just kept them lump sum now. So that's why it's $152,400. I personally have had the privilege not to visit Prospect House on a 5th floor unit, and those views are very nice.
So there's no formula or
No, it's basically the buildup from when the building was first put together and the assessment was, separated from the model, the floor, the view, etc.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, any other questions? No, Ms. Telleria, if you take a minute to wrap up then?
Sure. I want everyone to keep in mind that the subject sale closed very late in 2024. Unfortunately, it was not part of our analysis. This is going to be a data point for the 2026 assessment. And also, the subject unit has only increased 1.5% from its 2024 value. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Kinney and Ms. Devine, if you take a minute to wrap up, sir? And
Thank you.
ma'am?
Basically, we use the two comps that the county mentioned in their report. And I think we've shown that there was a significant difference between how this property was treated in the sense that it was assessed over the purchase price versus the two comps that the county used. They were the two sales property, not an adjusted market assessment type of situation. But they were the sales property. In both cases, the county assessed the property well below the purchase price. So we think there's a disparity and unequal treatment as to these properties and how they were assessed. Thank you.
And if I can just add to correct the record, the building was built in 1964, not 1980.
Okay. Thank you. All right, it's just among the board members. Where folks? Mr. Penaranda?
Yeah, I think, this is one of the cases that we've seen also in many condominiums, when the assessment value is used for marketing purposes to attract more and you list it at a lower price. I think you probably could have sold maybe for even more than what the price that was sold. And I guess it depends on who this seller is and what the motivation is to list it at a lower price. But considering the increase that it had compared to other condominiums or other units, the low percentage increase, I think it's very reasonable. I'm okay with the current assessment.
Okay. Mr. Mendez, anything?
Yeah, the appellant's number would be going back to the 2016 assessment. So that's a little far back for me. But the sale was the day before Christmas Eve. It was like Mr. Penarana mentioned it was listed a little bit low. Seems like it just may have been a good deal. I would have really liked to know how many offers there were, just to, sometimes they pick the cash offer because it's quicker, cleaner, etc. So that may have not been even the highest offer. But comparing it with comp one, this property seems to be better for sure. So, that's a solidified sale, arm's length transaction we can look at and point to. That one sold for $560. So considering the sales price was $532, we have that comp for $560. Again, I think they probably just got a good deal. I would probably support going back to last year's number at $604,400.
All right,
That's
Mr.
where-
Yates?
That's where I am too.
But okay, Mr. Penaranda, what do you think of that?
I mean, if there was nothing else, I'd be okay supporting that. But like I said, I'm okay with the low percentage increase that they had from last year.
All right, I would agree. It's a tough one. I think they just got a good deal on it. So I don't know, all right, I don't know if there's enough votes to do it, but would somebody like to make a motion?
Sure. I will move that we revert back to the county's 2024 assessment at $604,400.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Mendez and a second by Mr. Yates. All in favor and opposed?
I'll go ahead for it.
Okay, and I will oppose, so it's 2-2, it ties, so unfortunately it reverts back to the county. So the
Jose,
counties-
did you go with the motion?
Yeah,
you
yeah,
did
yeah.
not.
I'll go ahead and go with the reduction.
Oh, you are going with it? Okay,
Yes.
all right. Then it's 3-1. It's reduced to 604,400. All right, thank you. Okay, next up, do we have Summit Pharma?
Right here.
Okay. So the next case is RPC 170122231 at 2001 15th Street North. You can start, sir, with your 8 minutes and tell us about this property.
All right. Good morning to the board. I just wanted to give you some context here. To house the whole family during COVID, I bought a 3-bedroom apartment in the Odyssey on 2001 15th Street and paid the asking price for it, given the real estate bidding wars and scarcity of large apartments at that time. For my apartment, the real estate assessed value was increased by over 30%, 30, at a single swoop. I had called the real estate department at that time and was told that the real estate taxes had been reassessed on my purchase price as opposed to comparables available at that time in the building. The rationale given to me was there were no other comparable size apartments which had sold recently in my building. There were only 1 or 2, but no 3 bedrooms. So just to put it in context, I paid $2,090,000 for a 2,493 square foot apartment, which equates to 838.35 square feet in my building, which is significantly higher on a square foot basis than any other apartment which has sold in my building. At the Odyssey, the average price per square foot, looking at sales from September 23 to August 24, the average one is $660 per square foot. And the price from September to December 24 has remained the same. I had shared this assessment with the board already. But here is a more important fact. On November 6, 2023, which is within the period, so there's now actual proof of a similar apartment, an apartment, 3 bedrooms, 4 baths, measuring 3,180 square feet, was sold for only $2 million, which equates to $628 per square foot. This sold apartment is much bigger than mine and on a higher floor. And so my view is that you now have a similar apartment which is sold recently relative to the assessment on my apartment. I put an appeal to the real estate department, and they did reduce the assessed value from $2,039,000 to $1,822,000, which brings it to $729 per square foot, which is still nearly $100 per square foot higher than a similar apartment which has just sold in my building. So I went back also and then looked at values of my apartment from 2016 to 2021 when I bought the apartment. And the apartment's assessed value was between 1.5 and 1.55 million, which is $622 per square foot. So throughout the history of the apartment was assessed at $622 per square foot. The average in my building is $660. A recent sale of 3 bedrooms, 4 baths, over 3,000 square foot on a higher floor just sold for $628. Even with the reduction which the real estate department did, I am $100 per square foot more. And I request the board to just take a look at the facts and look at the comparables. And I believe my apartment should be valued at $1,568,000 and not at $1,822,000 for real estate tax purposes. So, those are the facts which are available to me and which I've shared already in the write-up with the board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Telleria, again for the county, please.
Yes. So this is unit 1004 at the Odyssey condominium in the courthouse area. This unit is a one-of-a-kind unit with 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 2,493 square feet. It has 3 full parking spaces. It has a wraparound balcony with views of Roslyn Courthouse and the DC skyline. Since no interior inspection of the unit was conducted, I did review that prior listing. The listing photos showed an original condition unit in excellent condition with spectacular views. This is a rare custom corner that was originally listed at $2,375,000 and sat on the market for 158 days. The last list price was $2,195,000 and it ultimately closed for $2,090,000 on December 11th of 2020. The appellant states that there hasn't been any updates to the unit. We had 1 3-bedroom sale during the 2025 analysis period. Unit 1507 sold in October 31st, 2023 for $2 million. This unit is a 3-bed, 3-bath, 3,180 square foot unit. It also sat on the market for over a year and there were no interior photos. The original list price was $2,995,000, which was later reduced twice until its last list price of $2,499,000, but finally closed at $2 million. There are 4 units at the Odyssey that are over 2,000 square feet and only 2 units over 3,000 square feet. These are provided as comparables 2 to 5 in your packet. During the 2025 analysis period, 1 bedrooms decreased 3%, 2 bedrooms had no change, and only unit 1507 reduced 15% to its model base value due to its sale price. The subject did not reduce during the analysis. The reduction to only unit 1507 caused there to be a narrow gap between this model and the subject's model. Given this range, I recommended reducing the subject's model base value while conducting the departmental review appeal. The 2025 model base value was reduced for the subject from $1,472,100 to $1,251,300. This is equivalent to a 15% decrease to its model, which would allow for better equalization to similar size units. Sales show that the market for 3-bedroom units has slowed down. Given the changes made in the subject's 2025 assessment, I recommend that the board confirm the subject's 2025 revised value of $1,818,200. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Questions from the board, and I will start. Mr. Varma, why did you not allow an interior inspection of your property?
I did not object to the interior inspection. Nobody called me for an interior inspection. I'd have been very happy. I said, anytime you can come, and there are no improvements. The apartment is exactly the way I bought it. But anybody is willing to come and look at any interior inspections to see if there's a single change from when I bought it, except for the furniture, of course.
Okay. Ms. Telleria?
Yes, we did speak to Mr. Varma. I offered the inspection. I said me and another appraiser can go out, which is just general protocol. He said he didn't think it was necessary.
No, what I said was I was traveling at that time, but you can find another time to come.
Okay. All right, it's difficult to look at an assessment when we don't see the interior. No, you'll have time to chat later. Thank you. Other questions from board members? Mr. Mendez?
Yeah, for the county, what is the other feature? It's $50,000 on this unit, and I see it's 0 for comp 1 and 10,000 for comp 2. Can you explain a little bit about how that's calculated and what that means?
Yes, so the other feature adjustment is essentially a location adjustment to where the unit is located in the building, almost like a tier adjustment. Specifically, the location and positioning of Mr. Varma's unit allows it to have the nice wraparound balcony with the skyline view. So it's essentially where it's located, given the shape of the building.
Okay, so it has to do a lot with the balcony and the way that's shaped.
It's the positioning, essentially. The other feature values at the Odyssey will range anywhere from 10,000 to, I believe, 120. So he's kind of right in the middle.
Thanks.
Okay, and one other question, Ms. Telleria, when you look at the value that's assessed on the parking, the 3 spots, I assume those are at 20,000, obviously a piece. But on COM 3, there's 4 spots. Is there, what are those, compact? Or tiered? Why is that only 74,000?
Yes. So for the parking specifically, those range. We have compact that are valued less, and also tandem that are only $11,000.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from board members? No? Okay, Ms. Tellery, if you take a minute to wrap up then.
Sure. I would just like to point out that the new revised 2025 assessment of $1,818,200 is significantly less than its purchase price of $2,090,000 in 2020. The department has acknowledged the change in market value for large 3-bedroom condos and has made adjustments where appropriate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Varma, if you take a minute to wrap up, sir.
Thank you. I already acknowledged that there's been a reduction in my assessment. However, I still believe that the real estate department has erred in their assessment. There is a market comp in your assessed period, which is $629 a square foot. There is no reason I believe, and by the way, it's got the same view as I do. It's on a higher floor and it's bigger than mine. That is the market comp right now. I was told when my assessed value was increased, there was no market comp, so they had to do it as per my sales price. Now there is a real market comp to look at, and I would ask you to be just in looking at the facts here. There's been a decrease, but the decrease is still higher by $100 a square foot from a market comp of a larger apartment with the same view on a higher floor. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you both. All right, it's just among the board members. Where are folks on this? Mr. Yates?
Well, as I looked at it, I went with what the county has. I think they've reduced it. I understand what he's saying with the, another unit, but I don't know the issues with that unit or what the sale was. Or how long it was on the market or anything else. I think what they came up with is as reasonable as they could do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, anything, Mr. Penranda or Mr. Mendez? Mr. Mendez?
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Yates. Just comparable one is the best we've got, and there is about a 700 square feet difference or so. The subject property has a 50,000 other feature. Comp 1 does not. Comp 1 has a $50,000 higher floor value, so those kind of cancel out, I guess. So again, I think it's really just a matter of 700 square feet. It's sold for $2 million. The county has this one assessed this year at about 1.8. So I don't see anywhere else where I could probably make any adjustments. I'd probably just stick with the 2025 assessment.
Okay.
Only
Mr. Yates?
thing I'd add is I tried to compare the variables on the subject property to Comp 2 and even on in Comp 3. And his adjustments, I mean, there's when you start to equal those things out or offset them, it's pretty daggone close. I mean, within 20,000, 30,000.
All right, anything different, Mr. Penranda?
No, I think I have to, I guess I have to commend Ms. Telleria for making the adjustments and doing it. I think a very good job at it. I think the comparable number 1, I mean, it was listed for a while. It's been listed twice. And I think, based on no pictures on the listing and no description of any improvements, I'm assuming that it was just in original condition and not necessarily great. So I'm okay with the reduction that Ms. Telleria came up with.
Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion? All right,
I'll go ahead and confirm
the
that.
county's reduced number of 1,818,200. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Yates. A motion's been made. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Okay. The county's revised number is confirmed at 1,818,200. Thank you both.
Yeah, I can't see on the road.
The fifth case doesn't have an appellant, so we'll slide that into the sixth slot, and so is Mr. and Mrs. Lanu on. Rosa, do we have the sixth appellant?
Did not see them log on.
All right, well then we'll stay on the schedule and go back to the fifth case listed on the agenda, which is RPC 1704137 at 1011 Arlington Boulevard. Miss Rebecca Green is the owner, is not present. So we will go ahead and hear from the county. Ms. Telleria, you can go ahead and tell us about this property.
Sure. The subject is unit 1116 at the River Place Co-op. It is a 2-bed, 2-bath, 784 square foot penthouse model. It is located on the 11th floor and has a small floor adjustment of $700, a view adjustment of $26,000. It is located on the River Place South building where the former restaurant used to be. There are 8 penthouse units that were created at the River Place after the sale of the former restaurant. These units were created in 2012, unlike the remainder of River Place, which was built in 1955. All of the penthouse units are a one-of-a-kind model. The subject sold during the 2023 analysis period for $308,000 on May of 2022. The listing states it was priced to move well below the assessment. In 2023, the subject property received a reduction after filing an appeal application due to 2 factors. The department decided to bring down the model-based value as well as its view adjustment closer to that of Penthouse 3. Since the reduction, there have been no increases to the subject's assessment. The subject's assessment has been $348,300 since 2023. There were 64 open market transactions at River Place during the 2025 analysis period, and multiple changes were made. Most 2-bedrooms received no increase to their model-based values, and this also included penthouse units. Penthouse units have not received any increase to their assessments since 2023, and there have been no penthouse unit sales in 2024 or 2025. Penthouse units, due to their positioning and creation, were treated with a special uniqueness. They have a more recent build date, and each penthouse has its own model. And generally, all penthouse units trend together. After reviewing the analysis, it is recommended that the subject's value be confirmed at $348,300 for 2025. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions or word? Okay, Mr. Mendez?
Yeah, for the county, how do you treat the land lease there? Because as we get closer to, I think it expires in December of 2052. As we get closer to that date, I would assume that these will probably all be gone at that point. But of course, they still bring in rent, and it's just a little bit difficult to value something like that. Is that taken into consideration at all?
We are definitely keeping a close eye on that land lease. But so far, there has been no indication in the market that values are going down. People are still purchasing those, probably most likely investors, like you said, to rent out. But they're open market transactions, and the quantity of sales has decreased, but they're still selling way over their assessments for the most part.
Are there any other land leases in the county that you're aware of like this?
No,
Okay.
just for a place.
Got it. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, Ms. Telleria, if you take a minute to wrap up.
The county has no new information to add. Just to reiterate that there has been no change to the subject's assessment since 2023. Thanks.
Okay, it's just among the board. I think, Mr. Mendez, your question is a good one because we hear usually at least one case from River Place every year. And I think, as you said, as it gets closer, we're going to see a decrease in value because it is a unique situation with that land lease going to expire. But as the county said, they do seem to be selling. I mean, not at the rate that they were selling 10 years ago, but they're still selling and they're still renting. So I'm hard pressed that, you know, with the burden of proof on the appellant that there's any reason to not confirm the same value that's had for several years.
I would agree with that.
Well, and I'm looking at,
Mr. Yates?
I'm looking at the sale price of the comps compared to the assessments. I mean, it's substantial. I wondering that price, why that in 22 it was at that price, but
I
think
thought,
she said it was new build and it was the penthouse.
Yeah,
right.
Go ahead, Mr. Mendez.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I thought the same thing initially looking at it, but this one's a penthouse, so
Right.
with that, I would expect it to be higher, so.
And newer built. Because it was converted from that space. All right, then I'm gonna move to confirm the county. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Mendez is a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, it's unanimous. The county is confirmed at 348,300. And the last case on the agenda. Do we still not have the appellant, Rosa?
Nope. They were
Okay.
properly notified.
RPC 160333129 at 1781 North Pierce Street. Duffy Lanou is the owner and not present, so we will go ahead with Ms. Telleria for the county, please.
Yes, so this is unit 2504 at the Pierce condominium. It is a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1,323 square foot unit. This unit is on the 25th floor. It is 1 floor below the penthouse. The sales at the Pierce condominium are different than most sales at any other condominium. These sales are generally coded multiple parcel sales since they contain parking space easements and or storage space easements. Given this uniqueness, the parking space or storage easements are usually assessed separately from the unit on separate RPCs. When conducting the county's yearly analysis, we take into consideration a separation of assessment value for these easements from the unit's assessment value. This requires close attention to see how much of the sales price is attributed to the parking or storage space easements versus how much of the sale is attributed to the unit itself. For the analysis, there were 18 valid sales at the Pierce condominium. 2 changes were made after a review of the analysis. 2-bedroom units under 1,800 square feet increased 10% to its model base values, while 2-bedroom units over 1,800 square feet decreased to their model base values. While there were a few 2-bed sales, I want to point out the sale of Unit 804 Comp 1. Unit 804 sold on December 8, 2023 for $1,020,000. This is a 2-bed, 2-bath, 1,320 square foot unit, which is only 3 square feet different than the subject. This unit sold with 2 parking space easements, and the combined assessment for the unit with its parking is $1,024,300. Also listed are comps for units 304 and 401. When looking at the comp sheet, the total assessment line only includes the assessment for the unit itself. There is a footnote for reference where it shows the cumulative assessed value, including parking space easements or storage, which can be compared to the sales price of each multiple parcel sale. The comps presented sold well below their assessments and in fact were around 80% of fair market value at the time of sale, which prompted the increase to these models and the appellant's model as well. The appellant submitted comparable unit 2404, which is the same size and model as the subject. This unit sold in January of 2025 for $1,500,000. The unit sold with 2 full parking spaces and a large storage space. The parking and storage are all easements that are valued separately from the unit, totaling $80,000. This sale occurred outside of the analysis and will be reviewed for 2026. The subject last sold in January of 2022 for $1,665,000 with 2 full parking spaces. For 2025, these 2 parking space easements are valued at $25,000 each. The total parking space easement value is currently $50,000 for the owner. For the 2025 analysis, the subject's unit increased 10% to its model base value. The 10% increase equated to a $77,000 addition to its improvement. But for 2025, the assessment of easements decreased. full-size parking space values decreased from $52,000 to the 2020 to $25,000 currently. Therefore, the parking space easement value was reduced from $104,000 to $50,000 from 2024 to 2025. When looking at the total assessed value of the subject and its parking spaces together, the change from 2024 to 2025 was from $1,588,100 to $1,611,600, which is only an increase of $23,000. The cumulative assessment only went up 1.4% from 2024 to 2025. Based on the 3 sales from inside the analysis period and being under the subject's original sales price of $1,665,000 in 2022, I recommend the assessment be confirmed for 2025. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions from board members? Mr. Yates?
You may not be able to answer this or not, but I know we're talking about it is one below the penthouse. Is the unit below this the same size, and what is its assessment? Can you tell me?
Are you referring to 2404?
Yes.
If you want to give me a minute, I can pull up
I
that
know, I'm
information. I don't
sorry.
have that one.
I tried to pull it too.
Okay.
I thought you might be better.
The unit's assessment is $1,521,600.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, Ms. Tellery, if you take a minute to wrap up then.
Sure. The Pierce is the newest luxury condominium in the Roslyn area, and therefore we have seen the majority of the units sell over the last 3 years. The large amount of data points allows the department's assessment to be the most accurate in the inception of the building. Once we see more data points which indicate tweaking of the models, the department will make those changes as needed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, it's just among the board. Where's everybody on this? Up to sales in the building. Mr. Penaranda?
I'm okay with the current assessment the way it is. I don't see anything that we need to change on that.
I tend to agree with you. Anything different from the other two?
Concur.
All right. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll go ahead and move that we confirm the assessment at $1,561,600.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll second. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, I'll leave myself in there. A second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's unanimous. The county's confirmed at $1,561,600. Thank you, Ms. Telleria. All right, that completes the agenda. Does anybody have anything? I just have one comment for all of the residential appraisers or assessors rather. And I realize we're winding down on the residential, but it would be helpful, and it seems like we have this issue every year on cases where on the agenda sheet, the names, when it's not a traditional, an easy Joe Smith, if you could list the first name first and the last name last, like on this last one that says Duffy Lanou, and the person's name is really Lanou Duffy, it would be helpful when I address the people if I could call them by their proper surnames. But, like I said, it happens quite frequently. So it's just something when you're submitting it and putting it on the agenda, if we could get the name right so it matches the front page of page 1, because as we're calling them, I don't have the time to be flipping back to see who's who. That would, again, just be helpful to me. All right, anything else from anyone? Okay, then we will stand adjourned at 10:14. Reconvene next Tuesday, June 3rd, virtually for everyone at 9 a.m. Thank you, everyone.
Hey,
Take care.